Hey guys, I'm back. I'm sorry for being gone for so long. My plan originally was to post 3 to 4 videos this month, but then I got the flu, and everybody in my house got it, so I had to take shifts taking care of our senior dog. It pushed back the video schedule quite a bit, but now that that's all said and done and out of the way, I figured since Christmas and New Year's were right around the corner, I try to crank out a few videos for the remainder of the year. Starting with the video you're about to watch right now. We'll be taking a look at and comparing the original variable action heroes, Zoro, and we'll be taking a look at a cheap knockoff. Of course, the plastic quality isn't bad on the knockoff, but I mean, definitely not as nice as the original. But considering the original here retails anywhere from $150 to $200, depending on what retailer you're going to go on, order it from, that can be really iffy. Whereas the knockoff is $30 on eBay, which $30, and it's not complete garbage, but I mean, compared to the original, it's pretty bad. So let's just take a look at him first and get it out of the way, essentially. So yeah, for starters, all 3 of his swords are basically just silver, which is pretty bad. I mean, you know, considering that even the cursed swords are just a silver blade. I don't know how well it's going to show up here on camera, but let me just take him out of his hands. Just do that, that'll be easier. Then you can actually see what I'm talking about. Oh, look, the hilt fell off. Isn't that nice? So badly assembled. Parts of the sword fall apart. That's wonderful. Well, aside from that, yeah, as you can see, of course, this looks terrible. I mean, I don't even know which sword this is supposed to be. Even the handles are wrong. I don't know what they're trying to go for here. And that coming off is a big no-no. I think the biggest problem is the fact that there's even a little bit of sprue left on here. It could be different if, you know, wrong swords for the wrong Zoro, because it'll happen, but these are his pre-time skip swords. Except the last 2 that are supposed to be Wado, and it's supposed to be Keietsu and Wado. Wado looks fine because it's, well, it's a basic sword in the original anime too, but I mean, there's no detail on the handle. This ugly peg here. The gold looks nice. The silver is definitely shiny and chrome enough, but it just looks terrible. Keietsu looks even worse. It's supposed to have the blue wave pattern going down the handle of the sword. It doesn't exist. I mean, it's not there. The red handle looks pretty okay. I mean, kind of hard to mess up a sword handle. And then, of course, Yabashiri is, well, it doesn't even look like Yabashiri, so I wouldn't even guess that's what this was. And then we move on to the scabards. I mean, they're just, well, pre-time skip Zoro for one, but also, I mean, it's one solid brick. And on the official version of the Past Blue figure, which is what this is a knockoff of, the pre-time skip version of Zoro, these all can pop off individually on a peg. They can't do that here. Instead, they want you to try to peg it into this. This doesn't work. The reason why this doesn't work is because you have a solid piece of plastic above it. You have a solid piece of plastic under it. There was no physical way to peg this on and get it to stay. Now, of course, moving on to the figure, we can pretty much show that he has badly seated joints. Starting with the neck joint. That's terrible. The official figure doesn't do that. It's not supposed to, at least. The head is obviously the pre-time skip head with the eye printed as closed instead of open. If you look closely on the sculpt, I don't know how well you can see it, you can see where there was supposed to be the original eye and they just printed over it. The scar looks alright. I mean, it's not the best looking thing in the world. As a matter of fact, it's kind of a lazily done scar effect. Mostly because it doesn't line up. It would have to be tilted like this for it to line up. So, yeah, that kind of sucks. The butterfly joints are a completely different color from the rest of the figure. So that's pretty bad. The elbow joints are a completely different color from the rest of the figure. The wrist joints are a completely different color from the rest of the figure. This wrist joint's stuck and doesn't seem to want to, do its job of pivoting side to side, even if you do work it. The elbow joints are loose, but don't do too good. I mean, the articulation's there. Yes, it's solid, but I mean, you get those ugly gaps like that. Thin plastic quality. And the biggest problem of them all, once the shoulder's up, there, perfect example. This pops out of socket constantly. Whether you put force on the joint or not, it's just not seated properly. None of the joints in this figure are seated properly. A lot of that's because, well, a lot of this isn't the original figure. A good example is that the butterfly joints on the original are supposed to lock in place, then never pop back out. But what this means is basically, in order to get Zoro's arm completely flat, you have to do some fiddling with it. On top of what's supposed to be here, which is supposed to be part of the butterfly joint, that's just become part of the sculpt. It doesn't move with the joint. Because again, what they've done is they've used most of the past blue version. And again, okay plastic quality, but very bad plastic quality. His hands are a completely different color from his body too. I mean, it just looks terrible. You get a little bit of a pivot there. No swivel. The head, well, pops off the joint constantly. The head looks down. Okay, up okay, but again, that's because it's a past blue version. Of course it's going to do that. And where we get really problematic, aside from the joints that pop out of socket all the time, is this. This is not what the original is supposed to be. This isn't even how the original was constructed. I don't even know what they were trying to do with this. So, first off, it's held on with just two very simple ball joints. That's not how the original is supposed to be assembled. As you can see, the legs are the past blue version, and they're both the left leg. I don't know if you can notice that or not, but look at how the legs are shaped. They are both left legs. What I mean by they're both left legs is, well, the way the ankle curves. Meaning that making any kind of pose dynamic is impossible to do. The legs don't really go out at all. They're hindered from this rubber piece. They don't really go forward all that far except to there, and it sounds like you're going to break the figure. Don't really pivot back too much. If they do, they pivot off to the side more than anything else. The knee gets, well, it's blocked by the back skirting piece. The ankle doesn't work. It doesn't even really pivot. The toe hinge doesn't work. Yeah, this figure's just not, well, there we go, popping off joints again. The figure's not that great. Not that great at all. As you can tell, the face looks awfully young, especially for this version of Zoro. Let me tell you why. It's not the face the figure originally came with. Because, yeah, this version of Zoro is supposed to be pre-time skip. He's supposed to have a different face. Much more rugged and more harder look to him. Especially the smile, too. I mean, he didn't smile much with this look. Here's the standard face that comes on him. I know how goofy this looks. I mean, look at this. How goofy that looks. Because again, this is not how the original head was supposed to work. I have the original head. Yeah. Daylight and dark here. Also, look how they're supposed to go on. Yeah, it's almost like these are not supposed to be, you know, interchanged. Because there's a tab here when there's no tab in the original because of the interchangeable face gimmick. While that's cool for the stationary face, that's terrible for everything else. What that means is unless you want to have him smiling with a do-rag or him with his mouth open doing the three-sword style, where, you know, again, it's ugly on this. You have to tab a sword into a tab on his mouth and just looks weird and awkward. Doesn't really stay in there all that great. But there's no click, there's nothing to know that you've got it in there. Just, yeah. Much too youthful of a Zoro for this. And then they add icing onto the cake. You can't get this face out easily. You have to pry on it to get it out. Meaning you're stuck with two of the exact same construction on this that aren't going to do much at all. So that's pretty bad. I mean, okay, cool, you get faceplates, but I mean, doesn't matter when you get faceplates when, I mean, they're badly painted. One of them, the eye, is completely wrong. Again, that eye is just a tampoed on scar and closed eye, but you can tell in certain lighting. Same with this eye. It's badly done as well. Looks like he's wearing lipstick, so that's pretty bad. You can still see some of the flashing around the chin and the ears. That's pretty bad. As for accessories, other than the weapons in the face, it came with the same thing the original comes with. 2 open hands, 2 fist hands, the 2 gripping hands, and the interchangeable bicep. Now on the original, it's hard to get on and off, but you can use the advantage of the popping off joint, and you can, again, not get this bicep off without heating it. And interchange this, but the problem is I wouldn't do it with this because I don't trust the plastic quality. And he also can't stand because of the round boots. It's almost impossible for him to be able to stand up and do anything other than just, well, this. Now, we'll get him out of the way. Take a look at the official Zoro, the real Variable Action Heroes Zoro. Yeah, far better. First off, skin tone's a lot more accurate. It's got that tanned look that Zoro does have at this time period. The face is much more serious and stern. The jacket around his waist is much better. The painting is much better. It has more subtle green going through it. The buttons are painted better. The blades and handles of each sword are painted better. Matter of fact, I can show you. Oh man, come on. Yabashiri is a lot better. You even got the purple wave effect on the sword, the purple inlays on the handle. Compare that to the knockoffs, so-called version of Yabashiri. Yeah, well, the silver on this is nicer. This is what Yabashiri is supposed to look like. Looks fantastic. Then Kietsu is just as nicely done. Let me go ahead and slide that out here and show you guys. It's kind of finicky to get in the hands, but that's because, again, the figure's quality. And Kietsu looks nice. It's got the blue flame effect running up the sword. The crossguard's right. The handle is right. Looks good. Looks very good. The gold's nice and shiny and bright. There's no sprue hanging off of it. Looks good. The bandana's painted well. The hair looks good. The earrings look good. The scar is painted wonderfully. It continues the way it's supposed to. The articulation is on point. I mean, compare that to the knockoff where you couldn't even do this with the knockoff without popping the arms out of socket. You can get the arms out all the way. The butterfly joints in the chest actually function the way they're supposed to function. These joints can come all the way out, which is nice. You get a swivel at the bicep. You get a very deep elbow bend. You get a very deep wrist ball that can move in all directions. Almost like a Revoltech joint. The torso is on a double ball peg at the hip, allowing you to get any pose you would want. That far forward, that far back. You can pivot all the way around side to side. The top joint is also a double ball peg, so you can do the exact same thing. The neck, now the neck is on a nice joint. The neck is on 2 double ball pegs, one at the top of the head, one at the bottom, and you can just get all kinds of poses out of it. You can get like that, you can get all the way up, all the way down, you can get all the way to this side, you can get a lot of attitude out of it. Looks great. That head sculpt looks phenomenal as well. And then of course, the scabbards look like actual scabbards. Yabashiri's scabbard looks perfect. Kietsu's scabbard looks great. Wado Ichimoni's looks great. And if you notice on this, you can actually take the handles out. You know, you have the handles that slide into the sheath when the sword's not in the hand. You can then pop them out and look like the sword's drawn, look like the sword's sheathed. That's a very nice feature compared to the original where it's stationary. This slightly pivots. I think it's just an assembly thing, or the glue on mine might have come loose. And this is the same way. You can just pivot everything out of the way, but unlike the knockoff, you have full range of articulation. You can go all the way back, all the way forward, all the way out on both sides. Because of that awesome slip joint that's in there, you can bring a full, the knee will do a full bend all the way with or without the skirt in the way. The ankle, yeah, it works a little better. Not a whole lot better, but a little better. The toes hinge works. You can get far more dynamic poses due to the articulation actually working. Both sides are the same way. They're just fluid, they work good. The joints are just wonderful. This is a dream to pose up and mess with. It hangs right, it looks the way it's supposed to look. He just looks like Zoro. That's kind of the point, isn't it, of a figure of Zoro. That's kind of the entire reason you would buy one in the first place. And again, Wado Ichimoni looks far better than the knockoff version. The blade is a nice silver, black on the back. The handle's painted nicely. To do 3-sword style for this one, you have an option of a unbandana head. You can just, well, wrong direction. You can just pop the sword into the teeth. It works. Looks good. You have the bandana option. Again, just pops into the teeth. I can just show you with one of the other swords that just pops into the teeth and you're good. And you have the stern-faced bandana option. It's just a little bit of subtle green shading there too, which does look very nice. We've got the gripping hands, the open hands, and the fist hands. You've got the interchangeable bicep piece, which is even harder to change on this one than it is on the other. Another thing of note I want to show is, notice how on the official, it's a much larger hole and peg. On the bottom, it's a round hole. On the bottom of this one, it's a square. You can definitely tell it's a knockoff compared to the original. He cuts a far better silhouette too. I mean, he looks the way Romanor Zoro is supposed to look. I mean, you can also, you know, change the head easier due to how wide of a ball joint you have here. It just looks far better. As for size comparison, he is about 20 centimeters, which makes him just about 7.5 inches. Little over 7 inches, but almost 7.5. I'm not going to do that for the knockoff. It's the exact same height. He's the identical height, but somehow looks a little shorter due to the fact that he's on a much different body. All in all, if you're looking for a figure that is a good representation of the pre-time skip of the post-time skip version of Zoro, but you don't want to have to deal with a $200 entry fee. Well, that's not good. A $200 entry fee, which is what this figure's MSRP is, and you don't want to deal with the cheap bad looking knockoff, then I would recommend you probably go with the Anime Heroes version. It's far better, doesn't feel anywhere near as cheap in the articulation. Its arms don't pop out of socket, so that's pretty good. But yeah, I mean, can't go wrong with getting this version or the Anime Heroes version. And of course, the horrible placement of the butterfly joint makes the knockoff far worse. Hopefully this review was informative and helped bring light to a knockoff that generally isn't talked about at all, at least from what research I've done for the video. And as always, if you have any advice, comments, or just in general topics, or you just want to shoot the breeze, leave a comment down below, and if you'd like to show a little bit of love, go ahead and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.